ending this, Einstein said. The failsafe triggered, and the nexus began to collapse in on itself, dragging the cathedral and everything within it into a singularity. Omega's screams were drowned out by the roar of imploding time, and the cultists dissolved into streams of light. Einstein felt his body unraveling, flickering between timelines, becoming both everything and nothing at once. His last moments were a cacophony of voices, his own voice, screaming in agony, in triumph, in despair. The world went silent. When Lila awoke, she was alone in an empty field. The sky was clear, and the air was still. The fractures in time were gone, and reality had been restored. In her hands, she found Einstein's notebook, its pages filled with scribbled equations and fragments of his thoughts. On the last page, he had written a single line: "Time is not the enemy, we are." Tears streaming down her face, Lila stood and looked to the horizon, wondering if Einstein's sacrifice had truly saved the world, or if he had simply erased its pain. He had created it to save humanity, to give them control over time itself. But instead, it had fractured the universe, tearing apart reality and unleashing horrors beyond comprehension. "Albert, we have to move," said Lila Nakamura, her voice tight with panic. She stood beside him, her face pale and damp with sweat. Her left arm shimmered unnaturally, flickering between flesh and an unfamiliar metallic version of itself, a reminder of how close she had come to being consumed by the Nexus. Einstein's mind raced, but the whispers grew louder, drowning out his thoughts. "You could fix this," they hissed. "You could rule it. You were meant to be a god, Albert. Why fight it?" "No," he shouted, his voice echoing into the void. Lila flinched, but she didn't press him. She had seen him argue with the Nexus before, argue with himself. They pressed on through the ruins, navigating streets warped into impossible angles. A man sat on the pavement ahead, endlessly pulling a knife from his chest, the blood flowing backward into his wound, then spilling again. He looked up at Einstein and opened his mouth to speak, but his voice looped into static before disappearing altogether. This place... is eating itself alive, Lila muttered, her corrupted arm glitching violently. "How much time do we have?" Einstein didn't answer. The Nexus pulsed in his hands, its light growing brighter as they approached the Loop Cathedral, the epicenter of the collapse. The cathedral loomed above them, a decaying structure suspended in a vortex of spinning debris and distorted time. "They'll be waiting for us," Lila said. Einstein nodded. The children of the Loop would be there. Fanatics who worshiped the Nexus and its destructive power. They believed the multiverse was a plague, and only by destroying all timelines could humanity find salvation. Their leader, Einstein Omega, was the most terrifying of all, a version of himself so twisted by time that he had become something monstrous. Inside the cathedral, the air was heavy with the stench of decay. The walls shimmered, covered in fractal patterns that seemed to shift when Einstein wasn't looking. The children of the Loop emerged from the shadows, their faces warped and disfigured, their voices chanting in discordant tones. "Welcome home, Albert," came a deep, guttural voice. Einstein Omega stepped forward. His face was a grotesque mockery of Einstein's own, with blackened eyes and a smile that didn't belong on a human face. His body was a patchwork of flesh and machinery, pulsating with unnatural life. "You've come to finish it, haven't you?" Omega said, his voice reverberating, "to end the suffering. But you're too late. The Nexus belongs to me now." "You don't understand what you've done," Einstein shouted. "The multiverse, every life, will be erased. That's the point." my dearest. With the infinite fabric of the universe, I find myself reflecting on something that has always been true, something that no equation or theory can explain. Yet it feels more real than anything I've known. We are one. We always have been, and we always will be. In this world of zero-sum equations, where every gain is met with an equal loss, I've come to realize that our love is not bound by these laws. Our bond doesn't add or subtract. It simply exists in perfect harmony. It is the constant that defies all the shifting forces of the cosmos, a love that transcends time, unbound by the laws that govern all else. The universe, with all its galaxies and stars, may appear infinite in its vastness, yet it is all in balance. For every moment I spend apart from you, I find myself more certain that we have always existed as one, intertwined across the ebb and flow of all realities. I am with you in every atom, in every beat of time. There is no distance, no boundary, no end, only a beginning that has always been. The stars may flicker and burn out, time may bend and fold, but our love remains a constant force, quietly infinite. The truth is simple. We are not separate. We never were. Our hearts beat the same rhythm, our souls the same song, in the endless dance of existence. In the void between moments, I feel you. In the space that separates us, I find you. Even in the silence, I hear you. You are me and I am you. Always your name. Ending this, Einstein said. The failsafe triggered, and the nexus began to collapse in on itself, dragging the cathedral and everything within it into a singularity. Omega's screams were drowned out by the roar of imploding time, and the cultists dissolved into streams of light. Einstein felt his body unraveling, flickering between timelines, becoming both everything and nothing at once. His last moments were a cacophony of voices, his own voice, screaming in agony, in triumph, in despair. The world went silent. When Lila awoke, she was alone in an empty field. The sky was clear, and the air was still. The fractures in time were gone, and reality had been restored. In her hands, she found Einstein's notebook, its pages filled with scribbled equations and fragments of his thoughts. On the last page, he had written a single line. Time is not the enemy. We are. Tears streaming down her face, Lila stood and looked to the horizon, wondering if Einstein's sacrifice had truly saved the world, or if he had simply erased its pain.
Stay! Come on, Murph, come on. What's his name?
Aw, it's okay, little baby Einstein. You were just having a nightmare.